Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. It's an exciting morning, as I'm sure some of you already know, but lots to get into on the show this morning. Is Marco Reus the late deal we're going to see coming into Manchester United in the next few days? We'll be talking about that. Also, we'll be previewing the game between Manchester United and Reading, obviously at the weekend. Tomorrow, in fact, Manchester United against Reading in the FA Cup. Lots to get involved in with that. But before I get into all of this news, remember, 9 o'clock this morning, an hour ago, the United Stand Tour tickets went on sale for general public purchase. The link is in the live chat. It's also on our socials. Dublin's nearly gone. So if you want to come to the Dublin show, amazing. I mean, they're going quick in Manchester and London, but in Dublin, there ain't too many left. So don't delay. Buy your tickets today. Can't wait to see you. I actually spent an hour last night going through stuff I want to do, which I won't be able to get everything done on the show anyway, but got some great ideas. I want to get some people up. I'm not going to give too much away, but it's going to be a great evening in all three shows. And yeah, getting ready for that. Can't wait. Love to see you there. Links in the live chat and it's on our socials. Get on those tickets quickly if you want to be there. Right, let's fly straight into the show. I want to talk about the Reading game. You can see a predicted lineup there, and I can see people moaning already. I mean, not necessarily moaning. We don't moan on here. Sakin says rest Rashford. I'll talk about that in a bit. But let's talk about this big story. I had to have a laugh to myself this morning. I mean, slow sports news. The industry is just so slow. Some of them are quick, some of them are really slow. Last night, as a throwaway comment, somebody asked about Chiesa, and I said it's a big load of bollocks. If anyone does a video or anything on that, lo and behold, people are talking about it this morning. I mean, is there just... I don't think people understand the world of football and Manchester United and transfers and how we could be linked with bloody signing Romario, who's retired 20 years ago. You know, you've got to expect these things with Manchester United. We're not buying Chiesa. It's not happening. It's a big waste of time. But one player we might be bringing in is Marco Reus. Now, remember I said yesterday that, and we spoke about it on the last night's show as well, because Fabrizio mentioned it, Erik ten Hag really does want to bring somebody in the next few days. Desperately wants to bring somebody in. It could be the difference between winning a trophy and not winning a trophy. It could be the difference between getting top four and not getting top four. He desperately wants to bring somebody in the attacking area, because obviously he lost Donny van der Beek, and there's just not a lot of... Martial's always injured, so he wants to bring somebody in. Now, the funny thing here is that nobody knows who it's going to be, because it could be nobody, it could be somebody. So people are throwing names around. Now, in the industry, Marco Reus is being mentioned a lot. So I bring you that news. You know he's been mentioned. You know that I think his agent was at Man United a couple of weeks ago. So Marco Reus to Manchester United as a late loan deal. Is this going to happen? Because at the moment, people are clutching at straws in the industry, and this is a name that keeps getting thrown up because it's probably the most logical one. He's an attacking midfielder. He's out of contract in the summer. He's a talented player. His agent was in Manchester quite recently, and United need something in the last few days if the opportunity presents itself. So Marco Reus could well be, and Justin says, I really would take Reus. Reus really could be a very viable option, apart from a couple of things. One, he's currently injured and has been injured 3 times this year with an ankle injury. Now, Marco Reus in the summer, I can't deny that could be our Eriksen. We could go and do that. But Marco Reus now, there are a couple of obstacles. One, he has been injured a lot this season, 3 separate ankle injuries, all of them out for a month, and he's injured again. And I don't know what this injury is, because he came back at the start of January from his 3rd ankle injury. I think he played a game for Dortmund and hasn't played the last 3 and has a problem again. So that would make it his 4th ankle injury, potentially, in the same season. That makes him as bad as Martial. But then that's not necessarily a reason not to get him now, because if we're going to go for him this summer, he's still going to have that injury record. Doubt it, but I really like Berghuis of Ajax this year. Well, they've just sacked their manager. So that's one reason. The fact that he's injured at the moment and has been injured most of the season doesn't make him that appetising to some. The second thing is, he is the captain of Dortmund, and when he's fit, he does tend to play. So whilst Dortmund have got a raft of options in their attack at the moment, you know, they've got Moukoko, they've got Adeyemi, they've still got Brandt, they have got options. Malin's still there. Marco Reus is still the captain of Dortmund, and it would be, after all the years he's played there, it would be, and I spoke to a German correspondent about this last night, they said, it would be very, very odd for Marco Reus just to leave Dortmund injured. He's not played since the start of the month as the captain of the club to join Manchester United when he's, a legend really at Dortmund. It makes no sense. So, look, never say never in football, but Marco Reus joining Man United in the next few days, as logical as it could be because he's an attacking midfielder, his agent was in Manchester, he's out of contract in the summer, I don't see it. I genuinely don't see it. I can see why people are doing it. I can see why, look, at the end of the day, it's a little bit like... Julian says Reus to United. If this was 2013, I'd be excited. I can see why he's being mentioned. And it's not, to be honest with you, this is not on the back page of the Daily Star. This is conversations in the industry with people who are, they're desperate to find out who's going to buy Manchester United. And they're just as desperate to find out who United are actually looking at in the next few days. Because if we don't sign anybody by Tuesday night, it's still a curious thing as to what we looked at, because it's well known, as we were talking about last night, that Erik ten Hag wants to bring in another attacker. So United will be sifting through God knows how many players at the moment. So if we don't bring anyone in, we'll never know who they were looking at. But if we bring somebody in, we're going to find out in the next few days who that is, because obviously we'll have to bring them in. So what's happening in the industry with very good journalists is conversations are going on, agents as well, and names are being thrown out. But honestly, sometimes you get bits. Nobody knows anything. Fabrizio doesn't. Ornstein doesn't. Manchester Evening, they don't know. They don't know who United are looking at. And that's why Marco Reus is being mentioned. But even then, you speak to these people and they're like, he's probably the most logical one at this point. But how do you do that deal? Like I say, he's the captain of Dortmund. Is he going to just leave and, walk away without saying goodbye and all that? I don't think he would. I think he'll see the season out at Dortmund. So, look, answers on a postcard, as I've said before. Who it is that United are looking at, I personally don't think they know themselves, because if they don't know themselves, that means it's desperate. That's why Fabrizio mentioned a week ago that in the final hours, United are looking to do a deal, because I think in the final hours on January... We've seen it happen before. We're not normally involved in it. It happened with Agallo. On Tuesday, in the final hours of the window, there will be opportunities that present themselves. And I think United are just waiting to see what comes up. I don't think they have anybody in mind. I think they're waiting till Tuesday and just seeing who becomes available, because they might just get a situation where an agent rings up and says, look, the club wants to loan him out. They're with, a couple of £1 million. Do you want him? Murta speaks to Ten Hag and he says yes or no. I think that's what's going to happen. So I don't see it being Marco Reus, if I'm absolutely honest. But look, stranger things have happened. Ten Hag would probably like Tadic or Gravenberch, says Sia. Yeah, I don't know that either of those are possible. Somebody did just say, would you take Marco Reus? Personally, I wouldn't take him in the summer and I wouldn't take him now. Everyone's got different opinions. That's what it's all about, isn't it? God, let's not talk about De Gea. But the point I would make is Reus sounds like a Glazer thing to do. It's a bad idea, says Dylan. I personally think Reus is a Ten Hag thing to do. I think Ten Hag, as I've said before, Ten Hag is a disciple of the Bundesliga. He was reserve team coach at Bayern Munich for a couple of years. He knows the Bundesliga. We will bring players in from the Bundesliga. We will. And I think Marco Reus, he's a big admirer of. The reason I wouldn't take Reus is because he's a fantastic footballer, but his injury record is horrific, and I'm tired of, Cavani being a really good option, but I knew he was injury prone, and ultimately I think I was right when I said I wasn't inspired by that deal. Yes, Cavani was brilliant in games like Southampton when you're 2-0 down and he inspires a 3-2 win in the second half, but he was never fit. And there's nothing more frustrating than having a talented player that's never fit, and I think that's what Marco Reus would be. So for me, it's a no. I'd rather go for somebody who's a little bit worse than Marco Reus but can play every week. Did you know that since ridiculous this is ridiculous, and this is something that Liverpool built their success on, right? Somebody put out a tweet last night. Bruno Fernandes, since 2016, so 7 years, has missed 14 days of football in a football season for, I don't know, illness, a knock, whatever. 14 days in 7 years. I don't think Phil Jones has been fit for 14 days in 7 years. So there's the upside of the coin. Liverpool used to, I don't know what they still do, every player they bought, they would vigorously go through their injury records, what operations they've had, everything, because they wanted to guarantee that Jurgen Klopp would get players that could play for 80-90% of the season. And in Bruno Fernandes, we've got somebody who can play over 90% of the season. It's worth its weight in gold. You could have a legend of the game who can only play 40% of your season, or you could have a world-class player who can play 80% of your season. And I'll buy the world-class. Even though the legend is better, I'll go for the world-class because it's available more. A legend can't win me a game if he's sat in the stands injured, but a world-class player can. And I think that's why I wouldn't go for Reus. It's why I didn't want Cavani, because I knew his injury record was terrible. I think you've got to look at those things. Just loan to buy Tillemans already and loan them McTominay or something, says Guan Tamale. Yeah, I mean, look, that's very creative. I've got no problem with that at all. There we go. Why won't United scouts look at South American League for a good midfielder to loan or buy for cheap, says Remy. It's funny you mentioned that, Remy. I mean, just before I move on, it's funny you mentioned that because that is a market that Ten Hag came into the club and said he does want Manchester United to work on. So we'll have to wait and see how that develops. We're going to do a Casemiro deal where a player decides to leave a club and we go for him, especially if he's an attacker and he just turns out to be outstanding, as you never know, says Michigan. Look, Manchester United should be giving Ten Hag 70-80 million pounds on January the 1st to buy the players that he wants. They shouldn't be giving him a loanee from Burnley and, will desperately try and find you a loanee in the final hours on January the 31st. We shouldn't be giving him that. He should be getting what he wants. But that doesn't mean he can't produce something in a situation like that. And what we do have is a coach that can, develop. So he can take a Burnley striker like Weghorst and get something out of him in a top 4 race for Man United. There's not many coaches that can do that. I think it's a sign of good coaching because I've seen people like, let's use a hypothetical situation here. If you've got someone like Jose Mourinho who's managing Chelsea and he's trying to win the league but there's no money, could Jose Mourinho loan in Wout Weghorst from Burnley and start him and still maintain a title race? Now, people will give me examples of Mourinho doing something like that, but maybe he has, maybe he hasn't, but not many people can. Not many managers can. It's a talent as a manager to be able to take a player that no one else would really take and say, well, it's definitely better than nothing, and I can coach him to do things that I need. There we go. Sean Dyche is back at Everton, apparently. Actually, he did send me a message. Where's my phone? I got a message from Sean Dyche. He sent me a message. Let me see if I've got it. I might have it for you here. This is a genuine message. Here we go. See if I can put the volume up.
Yeah, good morning, Mark. Yeah, it's great to be back in Premier League football. Obviously, I know I've got Tarkowski, I've got McNeil. I'd like Wood, but wouldn't we all? We'd all like a bit of Wood. But no, seriously, I mean, look, if you're suffering with something like that and Viagra's not working, I always suggest a bit of gardening and a nice brisk walk. But no, seriously, I'm here to keep Everton back in the Premier League, and I think my record speaks for itself. Burnley got relegated last year, but they sacked me before that, so where are you going to put the blame? But time to start getting Everton back on top, and it's good to be back with the Dyche army.
He's excited. Good to have Dyche back in football. I think he will keep Everton up. He just sent me that this morning, and I didn't know what he was on about, Viagra and Wood. Wood's gone to Forest, hasn't he? Which is Wood and Forest. Who would have thought that? I've only just thought that. There we go. Right, make sure you smash a like on the video. Mark, Phil Jones is getting a new contract in the washroom on his feet so he doesn't fall in the machine, says Paul Woolley. Don't forget, everybody, we've got a new member. I'll give him a shout out. Aulad is our new member. But I just want to say, tickets for the United Stand on tour. We'll have more of that sort of banter for definite. Dublin, Manchester, London. Link is pinned to the top of the chat, or you can go through our socials. I'll also drop it in the video description for you as well. Get your tickets quick. They're going really fast, especially Dublin. I think there was only 50 left when I went live this morning, so they could be gone very, very quickly. So if you're planning on coming, get your tickets. Can't wait to see you. Right, let's go back to what we were talking about. Is Zayn going to one of the tour shows, says David? I don't know. But let's talk about the game against Reading. I want to preview that before the show gets about half an hour old. So Reading against Manchester United tomorrow night. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not going to spend my life doing Have I pinned it in the chat? I thought I had pinned it in the chat. Someone says you've not pinned the link in the chat. I thought I had. The Reading game against Manchester United tomorrow night. First of all, I apologise because I normally do a preview specific for a game. And as you can see, the title of this show is actually it's a news show. We're talking about Marco Reus. So why? Why are you doing that? Well, the reason I'm doing that is because I feel that this game, whilst it's interesting and it has its levels to it, I also feel that it would be how do I word this without being offensive? I just think this is a really straightforward win for Manchester United at home, and it's an opportunity to rotate. Reading I think they're 14th in the Championship. As I said before, they've conceded more goals than anybody in that league away from home. They've hardly drawn any games. They either win or lose. They got smacked up by Stoke last week. And we've got a bit of an update on Elanga coming through as well. They got smacked up by Stoke last week, 4-0 at Stoke, with arguably their best team. So yeah, I just think that this game for Manchester United should be straightforward. But look, you never know. I mean, look, I suppose that would be the whole point of a cup upset. Would be to win a game like this for Reading, but I just don't see it. Obviously, it's the return of Paul Ince. Been on the channel, but that they're not doing that well. The tour ticket link is now pinned at the top of the chat. That is completely my fault. I thought I'd actually put it in there, but I haven't, and I'm going to put it in the video description for you as well. Yeah, I think it's a very straightforward game for Manchester United. 8 o'clock tomorrow, as well. I'm not a big fan of that. I mean, we'll be doing the watch along, and I'll be doing it. I'm not going to take the night off. That's not how it works. I did say, Charlie, you do it, but he said no. But no. Oh, of course, I'm going to do the watch along. I've done watch alongs for worse than this. But it should be a straightforward win for Manchester United. It should be a 2-0 win, and I think that. We've got a couple of games now where really they're different types of games that we're not normally in this position. I quite like this position. It's a game where, yes, 100% you have to rotate, but they present problems because these are the sort of games, and we're not back there yet, but these are the sort of games you used to get on the regular with Sir Alex, but they'd be in the Premier League. You'd get a team like Blackburn coming to Old Trafford in the Premier League on a Saturday afternoon, and you'd be like, let's rotate a few players. We used to live those days. That's what it used to be like under Sir Alex. This Reading game or the Forest game on Wednesday, which should be straightforward, they are a bit of a new feeling for us because we've not had it for over a decade really. But there was times, and the older fans will remember, you'd get a Premier League game at the weekend like Reading, and it would be Premier League opposition, and you'd be going, yeah, give Ronaldo and Rooney a rest. Yeah, we'll win this 2-0 without them. So it's a nice feeling to be back having these types of games where the arrogance is arrogant. Of course it's arrogant, but it's also realistic. We should win this game very comfortably. Reading aren't that good on the road. They're a Championship side. And it's a great chance to rotate and still win the game 3 or 4-0. So look, you've got to call it how it is, haven't you? Remember Middlesbrough remark, we couldn't even trust VAR to make a right call. Well, Glenny boy, you're right, but Middlesbrough was under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. No, it was under Rangnick. Well, it was last season. So this is how I would line up. I know a lot of people will disagree, but there's method behind the madness. I'd put David De Gea in goal because I personally just think that with De Gea, we've got a goalkeeper that, at the end of the day, we've got the third best defence in Europe. And we've got a goalkeeper that's fantastic at goalkeeping, but, there is still work to do on the distribution side. Of course there is. So, for me, if there's work to do on the distribution side, then play him in more games because it's a process. It's like Delo, it's like Rashford. They've still got gears to go through. They're developing under a new manager. So I would always play my goalkeeper. They don't need a rest. Wan-Bissaka at right back, obviously. Don't think we'll see Delo back. I think we've got a press conference coming out with Ten Hag today. I'll check on that in a minute. There's a story coming out about Elanga going on loan to Dortmund as well. I'll talk to you about that in a minute. Mark, I love the show. I love that super cool Man United tracksuit top you're wearing. Where can I get it? Says Ale. I mean, I think it came out this year on the United website, to be honest. Obviously, Lindelof and Maguire at the back. You know, if you can't play Lindelof and Maguire against Reading in the Cup at home, you can't ever play them. So you've got to play Lindelof and Maguire. Malacia at at left back. Luke Shaw's ill anyway, so why bother playing him? I don't think he'd be back. McTominay and Fred, again, similar to Magaluf at the back. If you can't play McFred against Reading at home, then when can you play them? And it's not really about playing Maguire, Lindelof and McTominay. I mean, personally, you know, all three of those probably should leave in the summer. But so it's not a motivation for me to start those players. The motivation is to rest Varane, Martinez, Casemiro. That, you know, and that's what your squad players are for. So 100% McTominay's got to play. Fred needs a start. A lot of people mentioning Iqbal. I'd like to see Iqbal play, but I don't see that happening. So I think Bruno will play. It's ridiculous the amount of football Bruno has to play, but who else can play? And then I would go with a front three of Garnacho, Anthony and Rashford. Now, people are saying Weghorst will start. I think Weghorst probably will start. But having said that, Weghorst started against Crystal Palace. He started against Arsenal and he started against Forest. He's coming from the Turkish league. I think the Premier League is more intense, and I'd just be a little bit worried of starting Weghorst every 3 days, all the time. I think this is an opportunity to give Weghorst a bit of a rest, play him against Forest. I mean, there's no problem with starting Weghorst. I'm just thinking we do need to protect him a little bit. You don't necessarily need Rashford against Forest on Wednesday, so keep Rashford sharp, play him through the middle. Anthony has to play because he needs to, you know, he needs to get better, and Garnacho deserves a start. So that's why I've gone with that. It could be Weghorst up front, and you could rest Rashford and do it the other way around and rest Weghorst against Forest and start Rashford. Owen says, I'm very excited for this game. Any opportunity to rotate and play the youngsters is very crucial in this time of the season. I completely agree, Owen. Hi, Mark from Cape Town. Would like to pop you a mail about show in South Africa, says Grant. Perfect. A lot of people have been sending us their CVs in. That's footballmedia@gmail.com. So that's the best one to do at the moment. Had some really interesting people get in contact. A couple of presenters who are in mainstream media interested in getting involved in the United Stand. So look, anybody can send their CV in. That's footballmedia@gmail.com. One of them talks like this. Slow Sports News. He wants out of national radio. He wants to be presenting on this. Mark, will you come to... That's enough of the... yeah, okay. Mark, will you come to Australia with the United Stand Tour in the future? I hope to. Yeah, thank you. And Palestri, Sancho should play. Bruno and Rashi should start. Well, Jim, the thing is, when it comes to this sort of thing, as we've said before, I will be lucky if I get 7 of those players right, because Ten Hag might pick his strongest team. He might pick Casemiro, Eriksen, Bruno, Varane, Martinez. I mean, Varane didn't play on Wednesday, so he might start Varane. I don't know what Ten Hag's going to do. It's very hard but rewarding to predict a Man United 11 at the moment, and I'm sure you will do the same, because he's doing such a good job of rotating. I don't think he looks at Reading and goes, I'm just going to completely pick my reserves. I think he looks at Reading and goes, well, this player needs a rest, this player needs 90 minutes. So you could well see Casemiro start because he didn't play against Arsenal. I don't know, but that's just an idea of what I would do. And I think McFred and Magaluf have to start, because if they can't beat Reading, then where are we? I think Fred is a second half man. He's faster in short bursts when other players are tied out. See you on the 29th. This is Slow Sports News. Thank you very much, mate. Thank you very much for coming on the tour. I have put the link in the video description and in the live chat now. I was gobbing off about get your tour tickets, they're selling out quick, and I didn't even put the link in the chat. So our tour tickets are out now, public. Everyone can get a hold of them. Dublin, Manchester and London in the international break in March. It's going to be fantastic live shows. Can't wait. A little bit nervous, must admit. A little bit nervous, but I'm excited about it. Dublin has nearly sold out, so if you want to get those tickets, get hold of them quick. Manchester's not far behind, and London is a bigger venue, so, there are still tickets for London. But all 3 fantastic places to come and visit, and then come to a United Stand show as well. So, I'm sure we'll get a lot of people who aren't from those areas coming in, and they are 3 good locations. So looking forward to seeing you. Get them tickets while you can. Links in the live chat and in the video description. I want your opinion on Ward-Prowse, says Mr. Ferg. Okay. as an alternative for Eriksen. I think he fits the position perfect. He's dangerous on set pieces. He lasts 90 minutes, and Southampton look to be going down, and he's their captain. I think somebody will take that decision, Mr. Ferg. I do think that they will. I mean, the interesting thing for me with Ward-Prowse, and I will just check it now, is I think he's 28, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. What's his contract situation? His contract runs out in 2026, and he's 28. So he'd be 29 next season, so that's fine. Age profile for experience is fine. Quite a lot left on his contract, so you'd expect Southampton would want about 40 million, but if he's relegated, relegation clause, that might come down to 30 million. So the question is, would you sign someone like Ward-Prowse, or would you sign someone like Enzo Fernandez? And I think United need to go for, look at... I think we've learned a big lesson this season. If you buy the best, it makes a big impact. I'm all for buying development players, but look, Varane came in, we've got one of the best defences in Europe. Casemiro comes in, we've got one of the best midfielders in the league. I think quality... if it's the right quality. I'm not talking about spending £80 million on Harry Maguire or £50 million on Wan-Bissaka or even £85 million on Anthony. That's overpaying. I think, and all those three players have their benefits, but Casemiro, Varane, they're world-class players. And I think we need to be bringing... I've got nothing against bringing Ward-Prowse in, but personally I'd be looking to bring in the best we can bring in. And I don't think Ward-Prowse is the best we can bring in. But if Ten Hag wants him, great. Shout out to Debs, who's coming with me to see United stand in Dublin. I'm buzzing, says Kiwi Dragon. Can't wait, mate. Can't wait. And Cape Town holds a special place for United. Both Benny and Quinton are from Cape Town, says Grant. There we go. Shout out to the South African Massive. There's a lot of people there. Apparently Dublin has sold out, says Taylor. Wow. Wow. I mean, tickets only went on sale 2 hours ago and Dublin's won. Well done. Well done. I can't believe we've sold a show out in, a couple of hours. Well, I can. I think the community's fantastic, and that's great. We should have gone bigger. We should have gone bigger. We should have done 2 nights. But yeah, fantastic, brilliant. I'm not on TalkSport tomorrow, Dan, because Man United are playing at 8 o'clock. So my priority will always be Manchester United. We've got a couple of updates coming in from Mark Ogden in the ESPN. He says that Erik ten Hag is prepared to allow Anthony Elanga to leave Manchester United on loan this month to build his first team experience. This is great news. And while Everton have maintained a long-standing interest in Elanga, sources have said that Man United see few potential benefits from sending him to a team that's embroiled in a relegation battle. Borussia Dortmund are keen to take Elanga on loan to the Bundesliga, and sources say this is Man United's preferred option. Well, you know what? I mean, going back to the story at the start of the show. Makuku, Malen, Adeyemi, Brandt, then you add in Elanga. They've got quite a lot of attacking options there. Does that open up a Reus loan? I don't know. But I think it's, like Ryan Brooks says, I think it's good news all round. I'm a big fan of Elanga. And I know people don't get that. But it's like the arguments people get into me about De Gea. You can clip him up as much as you like. You're never going to change my mind. I think he's world class, and I don't think we need a new goalkeeper. I respect the fact that you do, but I don't. And I respect the fact that some people think Elanga's rubbish, but I think there is a player there. And I think exactly what that thing about Ten Hag apparently is said about developing. Ten Hag's a far more intelligent observer of football than me or any of you lot. And if we're sat here going, Elanga's not ready for Manchester United, he needs to go on loan and develop, I'm sure Ten Hag thinks that. So, look, I think this is a great move for Elanga, and I think Dortmund would be brilliant. Doesn't it clash with your TalkSport show, says Dan? Well, there is no Mark Goldbridge TalkSport show when they're covering a live game. So sometimes, when there's a Premier League game at 7:45 on a Saturday, there's no Mark Goldbridge show because they paid a lot of money for TV rights. And as much as they love me and the Mark Goldbridge show, they're not going to say, no, we're not doing Liverpool against Man City, which we paid a lot of money for. So they TalkSport cover the FA Cup. They're covering the Man United game tomorrow. So there is, and also I'm doing the United game. So there is no Mark Goldbridge show tomorrow. It's back next week. I played the game, says Mania, and David De Gea is very important for us. He's a legend who's underappreciated because of the evolution of goalkeepers, says Mania. Thank you very much. Yeah, so look, that Elanga move for me, I think is a real positive, and surely that leads towards the fact that we'll bring somebody in. Although you could just say Elanga goes and Pellistri stays. You know, my score prediction for the Reading game, by the way, I would say 3-0 Man United. 3-0. Alan, thank you very much. It's your very first super chat. He says, is Reus better than Schweinsteiger? Oh, it does that now when you get a super chat on the live chat. Look, it does a little celebration. Celebrate the first super chat from Alan. Alan, we're all going to celebrate your first super chat. Is Reus better than Schweinsteiger? Well, two completely different positions. Schweinsteiger was a midfielder. Reus is an attacking midfielder. I think Schweinsteiger might have been younger when he came to United. I think he was 31. I think Reus is 33. And I think Reus is more injury prone than Schweinsteiger. So, you know, it's... yeah, I can't really compare the two, really. Captain says, well done, Alan, mate. But no, look, I don't... I've said it before. I don't personally see the point in keeping somebody like Anthony Elanga at Manchester United. So, look, I'll keep saying it. I think United will bring somebody in the next few days who's an attacker. I just don't know who it's going to be. I really don't. And sorry, I just had a message. Sean's not very happy that I played it out because it's not been officially announced yet. How am I supposed to know that, Sean? No, one thing I did want to have a quick look at, actually, and I'm going to do it while we're live, is I just want to see if Erik ten Hag is doing a live press conference. Do you want to take any bets on this? Do you think Erik ten Hag's doing a live press conference at 1:30, or do you think he recorded it after the Forest game? I will say, pound to a penny of shit, he is definitely not going to do it. Oh, he is! He is doing a press conference at 12:30, so yeah, 12:45 will be live. Well, I got it wrong. How? Maybe the FA Cup. It's live. How do you do a pre-recorded press conference for the biggest game of the season against Arsenal, but then Reading, you do a real press conference? This is great news. This is brilliant news because it means there could be updates on the transfer situation. So I'm very excited to see what his update will be. And wish more clubs would scout players outside of academies and stuff. I mean, Cruyff was doing keepy-ups in a park, then got offered to join Ajax, says Saya. And just grabbed my ticket for the London event, and I'm looking forward to it, says Triggered Salt. Yeah, thanks everyone who's buying the tickets. Really can't wait. So Ten Hag's press conference is at 12:30, so I'll be live at 12:45, so a couple of hours. Will you be using your inside contacts at Reading to help Ten Hag win, says Thomas. So look, Incy's a great lad. We had him on for a year. It's interesting because at the end of his year with us, he just got the Reading job and he kept them up. So we still used to have him on. But when it became a full-time job, you know, it became very obvious at the end when Incy was a Reading manager that he became more professional. When he wasn't the Reading manager, you know, it's like a lot of ex-players, they can just say what they like. So we just made the decision that really getting a Reading manager on to the United stand every week who can't, you know, might want Man United players, might end up playing Man United. You won't get the same sort of stuff that you'd get when he wasn't a Reading manager. So wished him all the best, and you know, hopefully he'll come back on at some point. But that means he'd be the sacked. So we don't want that. But look, he's done quite a good job. I spoke to him in the summer and he said that they didn't have any money to spend. So, you know, they were nearly relegated last year. They started the season off quite well. I think at the start of the season they were in the top three, but they've just gradually dropped down the league because I just don't think they've got the squad for it. And the danger is they could end up in a relegation battle again. So it's a straightforward win for Manchester United. This would be a huge FA Cup shock if Reading were to win. So I don't have any issues sitting here saying we should win it 3 or 4-0 with McTominay and Fred playing, you know, and Maguire and Lindelof. We should. Stranger things have happened. They have got a bit of pace up front. That could always be a problem for United. No Casemiro, no Varane, no Martinez starting. You know, we're always capable of conceding a goal. It might be closer than 3 or 4-0. I hope it is, but it should be a straightforward win, and we all know it. Are you excited for the Barcelona game, considering we both are third and second for clean sheets, says Connor? I'm really excited about it. It's a little bit in the distance, of course, but when you look at that Barcelona side at the moment, it is building in consistency. It's winning on the regular. Funnily enough, their last game was Real Sociedad, who obviously finished above us in the Europa League themselves. But you look at that lineup for Barcelona, and I do wonder why people are so scared of them. I think we can give them a game. Ter Stegen, Koundé, Araujo, Christensen, Baldi as a back five. You know, it's good, but it's not terrifying. Midfield three of Pedri, Busquets and Frenkie de Jong. Again, it's good, but I'm not terrified about it. When we're not playing them with McTominay and Fred anymore. We're playing them with Casemiro in there. So I think, and then up front, look, Xavi, Lewandowski, Ousmane Dembele. It's good, but again, I fancy Luke Shaw, Martinez, Varane can deal with that. So I think I am excited about it, but I don't, we've seen this as Manchester United over the years. The name isn't necessary. Sometimes you just got to defeat the name. The name Barcelona is huge. What a football club. But I don't, I think that if a lot of this will come down to who's fit at the time. I think if we've got our, more or less our best 11, I think we'll give Barcelona a game in the Nou Camp and at Old Trafford. I think we can beat them. And that might be quite a dangerous thing. It might be dangerous for us to beat Barcelona because then it just gives us more games, more Thursday, Sunday. And, that we don't want to leave that door open for top four at all. At the moment, as in Newcastle, top four, we've slammed the door. We don't want to leave that door ajar at all. But of course I want to beat Barcelona. And the thing is, if we beat Barcelona, you know what's going to happen. We beat Barcelona and we're all going to go, we beat the best team in the tournament, we're going to win it. Not actually true. And just because you beat Barcelona doesn't mean you can't get knocked out by Sociedad later on. So I am looking forward to those games. Man United against Barcelona should be in the Champions League and it should be in the latter stages of the Champions League. But regardless, even if it's a pre-season tour, it's still exciting. Hi Mark, do you think we need to prioritise Carling Cup and top four finish over FA Cup and Europa League, says Karan? Do you think we need to prioritise the Carling Cup and a top four finish over the FA Cup and the Europa League? I think you need to prioritise. It's a good question. I don't know what everyone else thinks. I love Ince, but we take no prisoners tomorrow, says Triggered Soul. Look, the Carabao Cup final is in 4 weeks. So that's the priority. It comes before the FA Cup final. It comes before the Europa League. So you can't not prioritise. The Carabao Cup is the weakest of the four things. Top four is more valuable. The FA Cup's more valuable. And the Europa League is more valuable. But you have to prioritise the Carabao Cup because it comes first. It's like having 4 dinners when you're hungry, and knowing that the first meal you get is nice, but it's not as nice as the ones to come. Are you going to ignore it? Well, you might do, but I think that's a bit silly. Just have a bit. So the Carabao, you don't have to use food as well. You could use something a little bit more risque. But no, have a bit. But the reality is, I think that God, the live shows are going to be good, especially when I've had a couple of beers. I'll be free to say what I want. Nothing bad, just a little bit more, Friday night sort of vibe. Anyway, what I was going to say is that the Carabao Cup has to be prioritised because it comes first. The Carabao Cup will be very difficult, by the way. The Carabao Cup final is going to be very difficult because we play Thursday night against Barcelona second leg, and Newcastle have got whole week off, and we play Sunday afternoon in the Cup. So that's really difficult straight away. But you've got to prioritise the Carabao Cup, and then when you've won the Carabao Cup, I think then you have a look at it and you go, if we pull Arsenal in the next round of the FA Cup, is it as important as if you're through the Europa League and you're battling for top four? I think at the moment the way Ten Hag has hurdled the obstacles of rotation and keeping on winning has been magnificent. But the real priority will come in sort of April, after that international break, after the United Stand live tour. No, we'll get to March, international break, and when you come back in April, if we're still in the Europa League and we're still in the FA Cup, that is when those 2 months, April and May, will be ridiculously intense, and it'll be the back end of a very intense season, and that is when you might have to make decisions on priority, because you could be playing Thursday, Sunday and the FA Cup, and You might have a couple of injuries. You might have players who are absolutely exhausted. Your fitness department might be saying things like, look, these players have only got 10 games left in them and you've got 15 games. So, and that does get said, by the way. Fitness departments will say to a manager, look, you can play him, but I won't play him on Wednesday. Or don't play him and he'll be able to play Wednesday, Saturday. But, you know, you cannot play him in all three. You're really going to risk... That's the level that sports science is now. The fitness department can be ignored, and I certainly think Solskjaer did it. And look at what happened. But you will get those sort of reports on players. We saw it on the Mourinho Amazon Prime All or Nothing with Spurs. The fitness department would come in and speak to him and say, look, that's 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever. So I think it's going to be April and March where you prioritise things, which by then, hopefully, we would have won a trophy. It's a massively fascinating season. We've got Brentford on the 26th and Barcelona on the 24th. It will compromise our league matches and our performance. The Brentford game will be scrapped, Manoj. That's the weekend of the Carabao Cup. So we won't play Brentford that weekend. We'll be in the Carabao Cup final. And I make no apologies for that, because there ain't no way we're going to lose a 3-0 lead at Old Trafford to Nottingham Forest. So we'll be in the Carabao Cup final that night, that Sunday afternoon. We won't be playing Brentford, not at all. Could we go for Bellingham in the summer? We won't get Bellingham, Cal. We're not getting Bellingham. The reason we're not getting Bellingham is because Bellingham has been in conversations and negotiations with 4 big clubs for quite a while, and we're not one of them. We can't get involved in the Bellingham conversation because we don't know who the new owners are. And because we don't know who the new owners are, we don't know what the financials are. So all we can do is offer Bellingham and his camp something imaginary, whereas Real Madrid can say, we can offer you this. This club is stable. It's going to be the same ownership model. It's going to be the same manager. This is what we can offer you. We can't do that. So we're not in the race for Bellingham. Are you doing a watch along tonight, says Just Kevin? Actually, you just made me think. So 3 o'clock. Oh, I'm loving the Man United career at the moment. Brilliant. We had like nearly 5,000 people watching yesterday. Man City this afternoon. I'm playing Man City in my FIFA career mode, if you like that sort of thing. It's a massive game. So that'll be 3 o'clock. Obviously, we'll be reacting to Erik ten Hag's press conference about 1:45 today. It's a live one, so we should get some good questions. Sancho. We've not spoken about Sancho. Let me talk about that in a minute. And yeah, I'm doing Man City Arsenal at 8 o'clock on That's Football. So United Stand will be 7 o'clock tonight, not 8 o'clock, which is a bit of a shame because I love the Friday night show, as you know. But I'll probably kick back and have a few beers with you a little bit early. And then we'll get on to, That's Football for the 8 o'clock. I'm interested in that game, Arsenal against Manchester City. But Sancho, that will be very interesting. The Renault says, will Sancho be on the bench? I don't know. I mean, he will be asked about this. So I think that there's three really interesting things about this live press conference. I'm so happy it's a live press conference with Ten Hag, by the way, because I thought it would be pre-recorded after the Forest game, in which case you'd have no updates on anything. But transfer, what's happening in the last few days, that'll be interesting. He will be asked about that. Sancho, when is Sancho back? 2 really big opportunities to bring Sancho back. Low pressure games at home to Reading and Forest. You'd hope he'd be back involved. It's perfect. If he's not back involved for those, I'd start to worry about when he is going to be back. So it's logical that we could see Sancho on the bench tomorrow or for the Forest game. And then the third thing, injuries. Martial and Dalot's injuries. How long-term are they? Are they about to be back? I mean, you never know. Martial might be back for the game tomorrow, in which case he plays up front and Rashford gets a rest. So I'm interested in those 3 things, definitely. Why do we keep playing Elanga over Palestri? Well, Palestri came on the other night. Will deal, didn't he? He came on the other night. Is the Tielemans transfer happening, says Jesui? I've got absolutely no idea, mate. I don't know anything about Tielemans. Not heard that he's coming to Manchester United at all. Have you seen this news just coming in? I don't know whether it's true. Keylor Navas has agreed to join Nottingham Forest, and they're currently negotiating a deal with PSG. Dean Henderson's going to be doing Randy Orton in his bloody living room now, isn't he? Not literally, not the way, he'll be doing the impression. But he is out for a couple of months, Dean Henderson. So, I suppose Forest just want to stay up, don't they? That's an interesting story. I don't know whether it's how good the source is, but it's quite an interesting story, isn't it? for old Dean Henderson. Interesting one. Interesting. There we go. Lovely stuff. Anyway, I'm going to go and do a video reacting to Sean Dyche being appointed the Burnley manager. I'll put that up on That's Football in a minute. You got the exclusive anyway. I'm going to play that clip on that video, but I'm sure that's been clipped up already. Right, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for everyone who's sending their CVs in. That's footballmedia@gmail.com. Like I said, we've had a couple of interesting ones from a couple of big hitters. We don't mind where you send your CV in if you've got something to offer. Don't send your CV in saying you manage Tesco in Birmingham. That's probably not going to go anywhere. But, you know, we're looking for industry, you know, people and, you know, people out of uni, but Manchester-based. That's footballmedia@gmail.com. Would you prefer Sancho or Anthony on the right, says Connor. Great question. I don't really know. I want the best player to have the shirt there, really, to be honest. And don't forget, get your tour tickets. If you snooze, you lose. I think Dublin has sold out already. London and Manchester still have some left. So I don't know what the numbers are left for Manchester and London, but Dublin has sold out already in a matter of a couple of hours. So get yourself down to one of the tours. Can't wait to see you. It's going to be great shows. I think you're going to really, really enjoy it. Be there. Links in the live chat. And I'll speak to you all in a couple of hours for Ten Hag's press conference. Speak